be discussing the use of depth, like I mentioned in the last class, but we'll be going further into explaining how it works, use of contrast, color values, foreground, midground, background, toning, motion, change of size of objects, object moving towards and away from the camera to increase our focus on a particular subject on the screen. So let's jump straight into Photoshop. In our live class, I'll be using a lot of pictures from actual movies to further explain this to you. Well, just to break down this whole concept and everything, I would be doing it myself, using these tools in front of me. So this is what it is. Use of depth. Basically, another aspect of this is perspective, which is a very broad topic and will be properly explained in our live class. So, there are different, there's a perspective. We have 1 point perspective, 2 points, the 3 points, 4 points, everything above 3 points we rarely ever use. Even the 3 points itself, we do use them, every now and then for serious establishing shots, to make it look very beautiful and, detailed. But our main focus will be the 1 and 2 points perspective. I won't be teaching you right now or in this particular lesson how to, go about perspective completely. Maybe definitely in the next I will do that. But there's something I would like to mention in between 1 and 2 points. And this is rarely mentioned, but it's common among professional storyboard artists out there. It's called the 1.5. And this will be your go-to perspective for your short design and background design. So this is what it looks like. Normally, our 1 point perspective, we have the vanishing point and our lines coming straight out of it this way, like this. And then for 2 points, I'm drawing so big. For 2 point perspective, we have 2 vanishing points. You have this one coming out this way, and then the other going this way. If you're not familiar with perspective, this would be a bit confusing, but I promise you I'll break it down to the point so you can get it. Now, if you're to draw, let's say, buildings in a 2 point perspective, they would come out this way. This is a typical example where you have 2 streets, standing in between them, and you're seeing the 2 vanishing points. This could be like a traffic light here, cars moving here and here. But for 1.5, it's like having a 2 point, but only 1 vanishing point remains inside the frame. So this is what I mean. It's like having a slight tilt. So we have a 1 point, and if we're going to have buildings over here, they'll fall in like this. They'll fall in this way. But imagine picking this up and just tilting it a little. Okay, in real sense, but let's say you have a box in front of you. directly in front of you. Imagine moving, tilting the box a little bit, just slightly. What you would have, I would use a typical box here. Let's say this is your box when you're looking at it directly. Let's say it's being drawn to this vanishing points here. This is for a 1 point. Now for a 1.5, this is what it's going to look like. Your box here, here, and then a tilt here. So let's make it a bit larger. So yeah, obviously we know this vanishing point stays around here, still very accessible to us, but this other one though, it goes all the way out. Like this. We don't get to see it in the frame, but it gives this dynamic, feel to our drawings, our images. Instead of just having a box lying, directly on the floor like this, by the time you tilt it a little, you have that three-dimensional, look of the box. That's what the 1.5 perspective is, and that's how it helps you. But this is not really why we're here. We're here to understand the use of contrast, the use of motion, to amplify our focus and our depth in our composition. So let me keep this aside. Yeah. So, foreground, midground, background. Let's start with that. Your foreground could be anything, but it's basically what you have closest to the camera. Now, this is your camera, because storyboarding, this is what we always refer to as the camera. So we have a character standing all the way back here. He's in the midground. So we have some grasses around him. Maybe taller ones. Oh, this is your guy. But this is flat. There's no depth to it. There's nothing intriguing about this that I've drawn. But if you add, first off, your grid lines, a perspective grid, since it's a direct, centered shot, we'll just have the perspective flowing directly from the character himself. These lines subconsciously are pointing straight on the character. This will guide you. It will guide the viewer's eyes. Whenever you have, they use this a lot in movies, where you could have someone sitting in a room and maybe a library, and the bookshelves are like directed straight at this person who is reading all the way over here. Now, this is a good way to, tell us that this is who we should focus on. Whether you like it or not, as a viewer, when you see this, of course you will notice the shelves and everything, but your eyes will be drawn to this simple shape behind it all, because it looks different from the rest, and it's every other thing is pointing towards it. It's like a look at me type of situation where you have no choice. You don't have a choice. It's like having a bright color, a very saturated color in the midst of low value colors, desaturated colors. Let's say having a bright red on, you could have a gray and you have a bright red in the middle. That is what anybody who sees it will notice first, the red. So that's how this works. But using a grid isn't enough, In some cases it could be. As a storyboard artist, you always have to, in your boards, your shots, grids will always help you to add that depth to it, even if you don't get to add any more details to it. But here's another way. You have your grids on, right? How about we add someone's leg? This is a street, obviously. Even if my drawing is crap. Imagine you have a leg passing by. This already, with this someone is walking. And maybe another, this time smaller since it's a bit further away from the camera than the other. Yeah, and I used red. That was a mistake, but let's enjoy it like that. I would make good use of that red instead. Because of how close it is, now let's leave values for now. Now, having this in the foreground, if you're using like an actual camera, I advise people to do this. Get the camera, place objects. You could place them on your table. Use your phone. These days, phone cameras are really good. So place them on a table and then drag maybe a box or anything closer to the camera, and have your main subject of the whole picture you're taking at the middle, and then obviously have something behind for your background. And when you tap on like that main subject, it will focus on it. Your camera knows to focus on anything you tap, basically. So when you tap on it, to focus on it, and what you notice is the foreground becomes blurred out. So
hi guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more of this.
That is another way to improve your depth. I would like to do this, but I messed it up. Let me just separate the layers. So if I cut this one out, do the same for this. Yeah. I can easily, let's merge these two together. I can easily go down to my filters, use Gaussian blur. That's too much. Reduce it a little. Yeah, just have it blurred out to this point. Already you can see how they don't stand out. Yeah, once you see this image, your mind doesn't go to, okay, what's passing by? No, it's really not your concern, but you are aware that these are people's legs moving around. But the focus now is placed on this guy in the center. It's not advisable to always place it. In fact, don't place your character in the center. I would explain that when I explain rule of thirds and all that. But I'm using this. I'm having the character in the center. But using my perspective grids, using the foreground and the blur effects, you can already see how meaningful the shot looks. But something's missing. We don't have a background. So let's add that. So if we do this and let's have maybe small bed Niger. No, it's a POS kiosk, yeah. And then maybe more buildings, shops. You can see how this is looking like a whole scene already, thanks to all these little details. The background isn't even detailed at all. This is like just lines sitting there. We have the character in the foreground, and then, sorry, in the midground, and then we have these legs in the foreground. Now, judging by the way you draw the legs or the angle, it could mean people walking towards him, you know. It could also mean people passing by if you have more activities going on. But it could, this background I have could also contradict, you know, the focus. But instead of doing that, what I always tend to do is I reduce the opacity of what I have in the background. Blur also works. Blurring it out works very well. But you could do this, and voila, you have a whole shot ready and easily readable, clear, understandable, and simple. Simplicity. That works. Having objects or people in a shot moving just left to right is, I would say it's really boring, you know. Let's say you have to tell a story of a guy going to a store and his shoes are untied. And all you do is just have him walking, you know, this way through this thing till you get to the store. Like I said, this wouldn't really be an issue for a sitcom type of setting. But if you have him walking this way throughout, and then he gets to the store, and this is the door, and he comes and, you know, opens the door, steps in. That's really boring. There's really no depth to it. There's nothing to look at. It's just happening. But one of important fact is his shoes are untied. Probably he's, you know, not a very, he doesn't pay attention to detail, that kind of person. So let's have his shoe ropes hanging out like this. And then we have him walking towards the camera like this. And this close-up shot is just to emphasize on the shoe rope being loose. But if you have this and then the next shot, this, you've already put it in the viewer's face that this guy's shoe, it's going to mess him up sooner or later. So if you have this, and then we have see him walking this way. Towards the camera. He's walking like this. Eventually he would come to this point where he would be this big in the frame and take up so much more space. This feels a lot better to look at, and it's more pleasing to the eye to look at than having, the character just moving all the way left to right or right to left. And we'll cover that more on screen direction. This shows more depth, that he's coming from somewhere. He maintains the, moving from, the left to the right of the screen, and keeps moving that way and heads all the way to the door. Here we can have the door hand, and you just have him hold it, push through. Then from here we can have, let me give you this shot. And here we can have from inside the restaurant or store, we can have him, open the door and walk right in. Depending on what the story is about, you could even have like a silhouette type of thing where it's a mysterious character coming in. We have tables in the foreground here, people drinking, but they have to stop to like turn around and look at him who just walked in. Cowboy movies always have a scene like this or a shot like this. So you just have a lot of people, and then one or two in the foreground here, staring at him, and he stands right there. Now this would be a better way to tell that story in 3 simple shots. His shoes are loose, he walked all the way down to the restaurant, stepped in and gained the attention of everybody there, meaning he has something to offer. There's something about the character, there's something about the place he's going to. So yeah, this is how you use size of objects coming to and away from the screen to emphasize on depth. You could also use motion. Moving background, static character works very well for a thing like this. Let's say here is our character, close-up shots, staring, surprised. And what we can have is have the background moving. Let's say we want to have a shot of, or a scene where he steps into maybe a flower garden and he sees something beautiful, and we need to have him rotating, turning around, looking at everything. A good way to emphasize on that, give it more flesh, is to have the background moving. Just moving. It doesn't have to be in circular motion. The background could just be moving towards the left, and then we have the character, changing poses in a simple way. We have a straightforward shot, we have the profile view, and then his back. And with just that, with that much, you can already feel the need to draw this. You can already feel like he's turning around. Let's do that. So I have this one with his face right there, surprised. Wow. And then this is the background, just trees. If we have another, the background doesn't have to move, fast or quick or anything. And we have him in profile view like this, staring this way, and then we have the background. Obviously it has moved this way. We repeat it again, this time the back of his head, you know, like we're behind him. Let's say there's something directly in front of him. This is a good way to reveal it as well. So you could just have this, and then we have a fountain. Maybe that's what he's staring at. That looks so amazing. Have a fountain right there. Water coming out of it. This will give you that illusion of, you know, it will make you feel like it's animated. Especially when this is done as an animatic, which I'll show you later on. But this is how you use background to, you know, emphasize depth and tell a better story. So that will conclude our class on use of depth today. And
Hi guys, it's me again. If you're enjoying this and you'd love to learn more, make sure to visit our website to get more of this program tailored for you. And do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel.